Now let's observe the anterior portion of the eye. At the oris serrata, the neural retina shrinks to a simple cuboidal epithelium. This epithelium and the extension of the pigment epithelium extend forward as a double layer of two simple cuboidal epithelia with their apical surfaces touching each other. This double layer will cover the ciliary body and the back of the iris. Over the ciliary body, the outer non-pigmented layer, the one at the free surface, secretes aqueous humour, while the underlying cells are heavily pigmented to absorb stray light. Over the back of the iris, it is the cells on the surface that are pigmented, and the underlying layer is modified into myoepithelial cells. This is the pupil dilator muscle. The pupillary sphincter muscle, or iridial constrictor muscle, which contracts the pupil, is made up of ordinary smooth muscle cells. The pupil, of course, is the hole through which light passes into the eye. By contracting or expanding, and thus changing the diameter of the pupil, the iris controls the amount of light that enters the eye. A second set of smooth muscle cells occurs in the ciliary body. This is the ciliary muscle. You contract this muscle to change the focal distance of your eye, a process called accommodation. The lens doesn't show up well in this section because it's a very tough and brittle and a challenge to section. However, on some places it's possible to see that the lens is covered by a green staining acellular capsule which is thickest on the anterior surface. Beneath the anterior capsule is a single layer of cuboidal epithelial cells called the lens epithelium. These cells divide throughout life, giving rise to the lens fibres, remnants of which you can see here stained a deep red. Very fine fibres, called zonule fibres, attach the lens to the ciliary processes. They're anchored in the lens capsule. If you look very carefully, you can see them here. I'll come back and show you the lens in another histological section. Now we will look at the limbus region, where the sclera changes into the cornea. See the epithelial layer of red staining conjunctiva fusing with the cornea just here. The conjunctiva extends over part of the white of the eye and then turns back under the eyelid. Let me point out the main features at this low magnification, then you can see the details at the higher magnification images. The cornea is covered on its anterior surface by a stratified squamous epithelium called the corneal epithelium, and on its posterior surface by the corneal endothelium, which is a simple cuboidal epithelium. And finally, the canal of Schlemm lies in this connective tissue area just anterior to the angle formed by the iris and the posterior part of the cornea. It's lined by red staining epithelial cells. Aqueous humour, formed by the ciliary body, enters the canal through a series of channels called the trabecular network. Schlemm's canal drains into venules, which you won't be able to see in this particular image.